You know, and I've seen movies. I mean, she should be a movie star. I guess, you know, just because of her heart alone. This girl took on big tech in 36 states, all while living out of her car. How about that? She introduced, you know, stop censorship, the Stop Social Media Censorship Act that was introduced in 14 states. She's been involved as an activist for many years, and I'm not going to go through her whole story, but I'll tell you, it is from tragedy to triumph. This lady. She's been a youth pastor. This is a person that likes to serve people, folks. And if anything, we need to get back to, it's not thinking about ourselves, but serving. And relative to some of the changes that we need to see in our country, you do need to be a precinct leader in your community. It is not that hard to do. It is something, I mean, I did that when Rand Paul was trying to. You do not need qualifications other than, if you want to work with us, you have to have a conservative outlook on things. And you have to be up on the strategies that the opposition is using. This is fifth generation warfare. It's information, it's psychological, it's technological. Not bullets flying, but it's very powerful. So we are in World War IV. Now, let me just get that a little bit back on track here. And I'm going to say, Jessica, if you can just kind of come up here and join me here. I just want to say that one of the things that haven't been talked about here, and I hope that Jessica is going to touch on this. A lot of these people in these powerful positions are being blackmailed. They're being blackmailed with this sex trade that's going on. You have intelligence agencies that are baiting these people. Look, I don't take any kind. There's no excuse for a grown man to be doing stuff like this. This is the deceitfulness of riches that's going on. But they are expert at trapping people. And once they've got you good. Jeffrey Epstein, I would say 5 years ago, nobody knew the name Jeffrey Epstein. They had no idea the names that were on the list of the Lolita Express. But that's coming out. That's what we have to deal with. So in our communities, it would be naive for us to think that it is not going on right here in Colorado. So I'm just saying that Jessica has a very unique perspective on that. So I'm going to hand the mic off to her. I hope that was a good introduction for somebody who really has a heart to serve. So just take it away for us. Oh, you can. Absolutely. You go.
Woo! How you doing, Colorado? Thank you so much for being here. Some of you might recognize me as the girl who kept going to city council meetings about 3 months ago, declaring that Black Lives Matter be declared a terrorist organization by FBI definition. So you're like, who is this girl who keeps going to like 2 city council meetings a night and she has no idea what she's doing? So Pastor David Meeks just walked up behind me, and I was like, I'm sorry, I can't recognize the masked man. He was like, Pastor David Meeks. So I didn't know what I was doing. I drove 2 days solid from Texas to get up here. I was like, I'm going to figure out local government if it kills me. So Pastor David Meeks and my host home, because like I'm homeless. No one knows my job description, so I really don't have, like, people just give me money if they feel like it. Anyways, so that night, I didn't know what I was doing, and my host home comes to hear me testify, going over the 45 planks of communism. Who has heard of the 45 planks of communism? Who knows that this was foretold in 1963 for public and permanent record that they were going to do this, discredit the founding fathers, do away with the Constitution, do away with the loyalty oaths, take over teachers' unions. This has been predicted to take over, defund the police and replace it with social programs. This is the communist agenda. So Pastor David Meeks that night, he showed up and I was like, hi, I don't know what I'm doing. You guys really don't have to be here. I'm going to figure this out. Because if I don't know something, I'm bound and determined to figure out the system. So I'm a former youth pastor, once raped. I spiraled into the pornography industry. I went to the nation's top faith-based sex trafficking recovery with a 95% of success rate of girls never returning to being exploited. So trust me this, I will not be exploited by the communist agenda. I recognize, when I was a youth pastor in Estes Park, I was randomly raped. I went into the pornography industry where we were packaged perfect for sex trafficking. We were hiding in plain sight. And just like us, you have been living in a perfectly packaged pandemic. We were not chained to radiators. Are you chained to radiators? No. My biggest question I hear at sex trafficking events, why didn't you just walk away? I'm gonna let that one sit on you. They were isolated, their information was controlled, their independence was punished, their resistance was costly, their survival was daily, their mental exhaustion came from the despair that we could never get out. Does this sound like a pandemic to you? And who taught you that it was sexy to comply? Who taught you it was sexy to comply? I was part of the pornography industry that showed you complying is sexy. I'm here today to tell you complying is no longer sexy. We will not be isolated. You're isolated. We will not. Our information was controlled. Our independence was punished. Our resistance was costly. Our survival was daily. And we went through this mental exhaustion of despair. And like you, I was hindered from adjusting to the deprivation. It will all be over soon if you just comply. You can have your 5-star variance protection program if you just comply. Well, that commissioner is a Republican who drafted the 5-star variance, and she's a traitor to the United States of America. She drafted a weapon of sedition. She drafted a weapon of domestic terrorism, and I have the definitions that you need to study. Okay. So now, I always have written my speeches this year. And that didn't happen. So now I wrote my speech. And then I just can't stop thinking. I played war music on the way here, and all I was like, war, not war, but it's like 300, whatever, you get it. So, anywho's, yesterday on my Facebook, I'm Jessica Joy. What's my name on Facebook? Jessica Joy. Say it, Jessica Joy. You can find me on Facebook, Jessica Joy. Yesterday, or 2 days ago, I posted about Lynn Wood. He said the blackmail threats. They threat the target with a gun, and a child is, so there's a gun, there's a child, and there's a target. And the target is our elected officials. How many? Okay, so I know red states like the back of my hand. No one could figure out how Greg Abbott sold out Texas. No one could figure out why the governor of Oklahoma was signing on to contact tracing. No one can figure out our Republican elected officials. I know this to be true. I came from the sex trafficking industry. I came from Hollywood, and then I went to the nation's sex trafficking recovery home. The girls in the program are the survivors of what is behind me. Their stories are they were trafficked by the government, by the elected officials. All of this is to be true. In 2016, I tried to stop this in Oklahoma. It's very organized. So what Lin Wood is saying is not including the seduction. When you look at Lin Wood's tweets, it looks like these our elected officials were held by that they were kidnapped. No, they've been renting out these kind of hotels. The top floors, they're called the Jesters. They have an organized name, and they're like it's a group that meets every 2 to 3 months in every single state, and they seduce them with younger and younger girls. And the pizza delivery drivers in Tulsa, Oklahoma were saying, this is going on, and nobody did anything. This is all true. It's very organized, and it's seduction. They seduce you in. These are not girls over the age of 18. It is all true. So who taught America to comply? I did. When you watch pornography over and over again, the part of the brain that's lighting up is tool. See, this piece of paper next to me is a tool. This is the packet that we're going to start arresting all of our the agents of sedition. So I need those who know business owners to start taking this. I'm going to be like Paul Revere and go to town to town to town to town to help you fill out your affidavits for the board, school board members that have been acting in sedition, your city councils that have been acting in sedition. We have the language. Who's from Colorado Springs here? On Monday night, you have a special meeting.
Right here.
And on Monday night, El Paso County has a special meeting. It's in Monument. It is to pass where all edicts are null and void. That's Monday night. Can I get a woo? Tuesday, the guy in that house is going to break hell on Colorado Springs. But I believe in Colorado Springs because my teenage years were there. I knew that there's military bases. You Oath Keepers and veterans, this is your hour. Can I get an amen? Veterans, this is your hour. So I'm going to take the language like Paul Revere from town to town to town. And you know how they've made your life like a Hunger Games? How many of you know what Hunger Games are? They've done that to you using the 5-star variance program where you tell on each other. Have you guys looked what it would take to get your county red? It was going to take you somebody calling in and turning your county red. They've given us, not elected officials, policing powers. So I'm going to ride like Paul Revere. How many of you know who Paul Revere is? Because if you go onto the COVID Colorado Gov website, you're going to see what happens. There's this fine print that says what happens when your local elected officials do not comply. Governor Polis is going to raise hell on Colorado Springs on Tuesday. And I'm going to ride through the night like Paul Revere to the next town and the next town and the next town until we stand together under the Constitution. So with the rewiring of our brain, the video games, the part of your brain that's lighting up is tool. The part of your brain that's lighting up with pornography is tool. So when they were burning down 2,240 locations for political and social objectives, the part of their brain that is firing off is tool. We've raised a generation that thinks that this is a video game. We have raised a generation that their brain says this is a video game. This is not Pac-Man. This is not, we're on next level. Women were putting up signs in their store. Please don't burn down my business. I'm a mom of 3 kids. We have dehumanized our children and our country so much. The week before our country closed down, do you know what passed across our country?
Shane Diesel, Intel.
So I track bills, and I taught myself how to do this because no one was. I saw the Monday before they closed our country down. The sex education mandatory passed K through 12, signed into law. Is sex education neutral? No, it's controversial. If something is not natural, neutral, nor leads to human flourishing, it is therefore unconstitutional. Is abortion neutral? No. It's not. So we, the nonconformers, have been forced to commit an act of immorality through coercion of our tax dollars. Is trans ideology in our schools, is it neutral? Then we, the nonconformers, should not be funding anything that's not neutral, nor leads to human flourishing. It is unconstitutional. So we're about to all go to school. That's what's about to happen. The first thing that happened whenever I got into this lane is I was like, if I'm going to take on big tech, maybe I should register to vote. So the wonderful lady that was beside me earlier, she said, well, maybe you should start in your town.
Yo, you preaching.
When I was at the nation's top sex trafficking recovery, I didn't know how to not spend $5,000 a day as part of the Denver Tech Center brothel. I was stripped down to, can you manage this bed? Can you manage these 10 hangers? Can you manage these 4 pairs of shoes? Well, I'm here to talk to you, America. Can you manage your school board? Can you manage your city council? Can you manage your county commissioners? Then, the Constitution says if you say that you can handle what's in front of you, then we don't have just a right to dissolve government. We have a duty to dissolve government. Can I get an amen? So I'm going to just go off what the beautiful woman before me said. This is all about local government. What is treason? I'm very curious why I haven't heard any media go over treason. Raise your hand if you know what treason is. Treason, Article 3, Section 3, whoever swears allegiance to the United States, levies war against them, or adheres to their enemies, giving them aid and comfort within the United States. If you look on Wikipedia, 26 million domestic terrorists complied to burning down 2,240 locations for political or social objectives. We are not looking at social justice. Veterans, I need you to tell everybody what we're looking at. It's called domestic terrorists. And they're sitting on your school boards and they're preaching sedition. What is the definition of sedition? You might need to rewind this video later because I'm giving some big vocabulary words. You need to know what treason is. You need to know what sedition is. Because how much of our money, over $400 million, went to higher education?
Everybody said not guilty.
And we are going to go after those dollars. You need to look up every single teacher, Google their name plus Black Lives Matter plus Women's March. That is an act of sedition if they're teaching sedition in the classrooms. Amen? So what is the result of treason? Technically, everybody, you know what it is. You know what treason within the United States or elsewhere is guilty of treason and shall be sentenced to death. I don't need to look at the amendments to that Constitution. Domestic terrorism. Everybody say domestic terrorism. Domestic terrorism. Intimidate, coerce a civilian population to influence the policy. We have a Senate bill that was passed in that State House in 2008, written by treasonous senators that formed the government within your health department. I found this bill. I was told, Jessica, find the bill that funded this treason. It happened in this State House in 2008.
What is the bill?
Oh, I'm gonna go there. The Senate bill is 08-194. The prime sponsors of Senate Bill 08-194. Where's my oath keepers? We have a name for you. Senator Gondorn and then Representative McGinnon were the prime sponsors on that bill that went through on Sendine. What's Sendine? It's like the last part of your session when they cram bills through. You have a bill summary that doesn't match the bill. What's a bill summary? A bill summary says, this is a microphone. A bill will say, well, it's a microphone made by this company and it looks like this and this. The bill summary doesn't match the bill. Rose Polo. Who wrote the 5-star variants? Rose. These are names. You have the responsibility to look through your school boards, look through your city councils, and find who is in an act of sedition and teaching it to our children. If we have 26 million people that have burned our country to the ground, somebody has to be held accountable. Amen? Okay. Next, charge of sedition. This is 18th U.S. Code 2384 to conspire to seize federal property. Have they seized our courts? Yes. Have they seized our schools? Yes. Have they seized our post offices? Yes. Have they seized our seats? Yes. Charge of sedition refers to an act of sedition of revolt violent against a lawful authority. Who's lawful? We are lawful. Why are we lawful? Because we abide by the Constitution. The Constitution supersedes the law, all other laws. This is Marbury versus Madison, 1803. So how can you be a person of action? How many of you guys are ready for action? How many are ready for action? You guys here today. That's step number 1. Who's ready to audit their school boards? Gather little groups to audit your school boards, audit your budget, audit your teachers, audit your staff. Forced resignation, we're going to yank bonds, null and void. On Monday night, and this is going to spread through the counties, these edicts will be null and void. We need associations of businesses. So if you or somebody you know knows an on-fire town, have them inbox me. I'll go to their town. We'll start filling out affidavits together. So I need a host from each of these towns. I need an angry mom. Everybody, show me your angry moms. Because, show me your angry moms. Because you know what the government is guilty of? They have trafficked your biological offspring for political, financial, and social gain. They have committed forced isolation, which is child abuse. Your government, other actors, have seized 75% of your property, and there is never. How many of you think the government can seize 75% of your property? The government cannot seize 75% of your property without your consent, without a contract, assessment, and compensation before the sale has taken place. So that's what's going to be on those affidavits, is the damage to your business, the damage to your family. How much did you spend complying to the 5-star variants? That is coercion and duress that you signed up for. How many of you would build an igloo for your restaurant and put a heating lamp in it? That's called coercion. We're going town by town and we're taking back our towns. Open your churches. Open your churches. Get your seniors involved, veterans, CPAs. We have a lot of work to do. Pastors, open up your church, start Patriot schools. Families, where's your homes? Media, we are the new media. I want to thank you for being here. This is just the beginning. It's all about local government. Follow, keep Colorado free and open. Follow and get involved. There are meetings every single night all across the state. Thank you so much for your time and thank you for having me.
Thank you, Jessica. All right. Now, you know, by the way, I know that we've been going for 3 hours. We have one more speaker. But I'm thinking that based on what is going on here, come on up here, you know, in DC and everything, just 30 seconds, Steve. We're going to get Steve up here. But I want to thank you all for a very, you know, nonviolent, very peaceful, you know, rally that we will have. I need to get a little more juice here, guys, at the sound booth, okay? Just a little bit more juice on the mic. Hey, my wingman Frank there will kind of fix that. Hey, could you give me a little more juice there, Frank? Yeah, thank you. All right. There we go. Good, good. So, on that note, I'd just like to hand the mic off and basically end this thing in encouragement, nonviolence, peace, and so forth. So, here you go.
Hello. I'd just like to bring a little bit of my cultural history. I'm Toby Fernsler. I'm a scientist, a family man, and a Quaker. I am a 7th generation Quaker, which the Quaker Friends believe in solving all problems through nonviolence to an extreme point where my grandfather sat